a very long time. Well, about 4 months, I think, or longer. I'm sorry about that. I just haven't really felt inspired to make a video, and I haven't really found content that I wanted to make a video about. But hopefully you'll enjoy today's video. And before I get into it, I just want to say that going forward, do you want me to make videos that are soft-spoken as well? Because I quite like soft-spoken videos. I often prefer them. So if you would prefer that I also make soft-spoken videos, please leave me a comment down below and let me know that's what you would like me to do. Otherwise, I might just mix it up or continue to do whispered videos. The other thing I want to mention is I want to recommend an ASMR artist, like a smaller one, mostly smaller ones, every time I do a video, because I'm forever looking for smaller artists to listen to. I much prefer that type of content. I much prefer listening to a sort of like just sit down and talk like I'm doing now. Don't really get into anything high tech or fancy. Don't really enjoy those. I find like the lo-fi videos are the best ones for me, and I think a lot of people probably feel the same way. So please recommend your favourite smaller ASMR artists in the comments, especially if they do true crime. And today my recommendation is Winter Moonlight ASMR. She is absolutely brilliant. I will leave a link to her channel in the description box. I love the way she goes from soft spoken to whispering in her videos, and her topics are amazing. She has done some true crime videos before, but she also does really interesting videos such as the origin of monsters, but it's all factually based, so why monsters have come to be the way they are, like where the legend of vampires come from, etc. I love that video. I must have watched it hundreds of times. No, literally, I think I've watched it about 15 times or more, and I'm really surprised she hasn't got more subscribers, so please go over there and give her some love. She deserves it. So today we're going to be talking about the mysterious death of actress, or actor as we would say today, Natalie Wood. And I want everyone to let me know in the comments whether they think this death was accidental, an accidental murder as in manslaughter, or just a murder. Give me your opinions below. So on a cool November day 37 years ago, 4 adults went for a cruise off the southwest coast of Los Angeles aboard Splendor, a 55-foot yacht. 3 of those adults would come back safely to shore. The 4th would never see home again. She'd never work again or see her children reach adulthood. She was discovered floating in the water in a flannel nightgown, socks and a down jacket the next morning. In this story, the unlucky adult was also the most famous adult movie star, Natalie Wood, who was 43 years old at the time. She had been a beloved child actress, first capturing national attention in the 1947 Christmas classic Miracle on 34th Street. I've not seen the original one, but I should because I love the newer one, where she played the skeptical, precocious Susan Walker, and then as a beautiful and ingenue in such films as the 1961 musical West Side Story, in which she played the graceful Maria. By the age of 25, she had been nominated for 3 Academy Awards for Best Actress for her leading roles in Rebel Without a Cause, Splendor in the Grass, and Love with a Proper Stranger. But perhaps because of her tragic end, when you hear the name Natalie Wood today, you don't think first of her storied career. To wit, there are 38 million Google results when you search the term Natalie Wood death. While the circumstances surrounding her death remain murky and controversial, we can agree that dying so young and so mysteriously, Wood's talent was denied a proper legacy. In 1981, Natalie's death was classified as an accident and a probable drowning in ocean. Quoted. Prominent Los Angeles coroner Thomas searchers and eventually the Coast Guard all combed the water and the island coastline, and the Sheriff's Department helicopter eventually spotted Natalie's floating body. She was pronounced dead at 7:44 a.m. on November 29th, so that was only 2 days ago from me recording this. So that's 39 years. Wood's funeral, held on the 3rd of December, shows a devastated, weeping Wagner surrounded by friends, family, and the cream of the entertainment world: Laurence Olivier, Frank Sinatra, Gregory Peck, and Rock Hudson. Instead of finality, Wood's death only seemed to provoke questions, and 3 decades later, in 2011, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department reopened the investigation, and at a press conference in February of 2018, Captain Christopher Bergner of the Homicide Department said new witnesses and those with relevant information had been identified, and a different timeline had emerged of Natalie Wood's last hours on the boat and when help was requested. At the February press conference, John Carina, a lieutenant in the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department Homicide Bureau, said that Robert Wagner, 88, was a person of interest in her death, and they would like to speak with him again to hear his version of events. The new witnesses, he says, were people in boats moored near the Wagner yacht who heard the couple loudly arguing, as well as a woman calling for help. Wagner is a person of interest because he was the last one with Natalie Wood, and somehow she ends up in the water and drowns, said Carina. The case is still open, says Susan Finstad, author of Natasha, the biography of Natalie Wood. Natasha was the name her Russian family called her. When Finstad's book was published in 2009, it contained startling claims about arguments between Wood and Wagner shortly before she was declared missing from their yacht. The source was the 4th person on the boat, its captain, Dennis Davin, who is now 70. In the February press, Carina said the witness statements from those who heard the couple fighting matched up with Davin, who in recent police interviews. Carina added that his department have also talked to witnesses who saw the group on Catalina Island at the weekend, as well as people who knew Wagner and Wood. Some of the details that have emerged about the last hours of the yachts are ugly, with whispers of drunkenness, rage, and accused infidelity. The life of Natalie Wood is like a Russian matryoshka doll. I've probably said that wrong, I'm really sorry. A set of wooden dolls nesting in one another. When you pick up one doll, you find one on the inside. When you pick up one doll, you find another inside, over and over. Even those who thought themselves familiar with the story life of the sparkling Wood would be taken aback in the reality of her childhood. Born Natalia I've messed that up so much. Stop. Even when you pick up one doll, you find another one inside, over and over. Even those who thought themselves familiar with the life story of the sparkling Wood would be taken aback by the reality of her childhood. I'm about to butcher her name because it is Russian. Born Natalia Nikolaevna Zakharenko, Wood was the daughter of Russian immigrants. Studio executives changed Natalia's name to Natalie Wood when she first started acting as a child. Her father, Nikolai Zakharenko, was a labourer given to violent alcoholic rages, and her mother, Maria, was a fantasist and abusive taskmaker who drove her tiny daughter to become the family breadwinner, according to Finstad's biography and other documented articles about Wood. Maria's family fled to China after the Russian Revolution, and when she was a child, she had her fortune read by a gypsy in Harbin. The fortune teller told her that her second child would be a great beauty, known throughout the world. But she also said Maria must beware of dark water. Maria passed on that fear to her second 1996 film Tomorrow is Forever alongside Orson Welles. The character that was of an emotionally fragile girl orphaned by Nazis. To win the part, Wood would have to be able to cry on cue. Her mother wasn't sure she could do it. At the studio, clutching her 7-year-old daughter before her screen desk, Maria whispered to her to think of the death of the family dog. But she went much further than that, according to Finstad's book. Her mother pulled her to one side where no one else could see, took a live butterfly out of the jar and tore the wings off. Tender-hearted Natasha went into hysterics as her mother called out, "She's ready," grabbing her by the hand and pushing her in front of the camera. So she's awful, basically. Wood was so moving in the film that she won a long-term studio contract. She was famously hard-working, learning not just her lines but everyone else's, and earning the nickname One Take Natalie. She performed in a dizzying number of movies, including The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, and as she reached her teen years, wore braids and frilly dresses so she could play younger roles. But unsurprisingly, Wood rebelled from her mother's tight control and her ultra-wholesome image by the time she was 16. She wanted to be a real actress, an artist, and with some difficulty won a part in Rebel Without a Cause, co-starring James Dean and Sal Mineo. This period also launched her sexual rebelliousness. Wood, 16, had an affair with the 44-year-old director Nicholas Ray, and she also slept with her co-star Dennis Hopper, according to Finstad's book. In the next few years, she would date entertainers like Elvis Presley and heartthrob Tab Hunter. In Hunter's case, she was playing the part of Beard, since the gay actor was then in the closet. So Tab Hunter was gay and she was playing his girlfriend. Wagner was different. She had long had a crush on the handsome actor, and they went on their first date on her 18th birthday. They married 1 year later in 1957, becoming Hollywood's golden couple, but the marriage did not last. Following their divorce in 1962, so 5 years later, Wood dated Warren Beatty before marrying British producer Richard Gregson in 1969. It was with Gregson that she had her first daughter, Natasha. Oh, so she named her daughter after her original nickname. Cute. To the delight of her fans, after she divorced Gregson in 1972, Wood got back in touch with Wagner. They remarried that same year, 1 decade after their divorce. This time the marriage flourished and they had a daughter, Courtney. Wagner's career took off when she found a hit TV series in Heart to Heart. During that time, Wood made fewer films. Some say she wanted to devote more time to her family, but she was also finding it hard to get good parts after 40. Like back in the day when women were just judged on beauty, basically. Wood's last movie, Brainstorm, in which she played a scientist married to a fellow scientist portrayed by Christopher Walken, the New York-based actor, just won an Academy Award for The Deer Hunter. Wood told friends she was worried that she looked older than Walken on screen, as she was 5 years his senior, but they struck up a friendship and rumours swirled about their connection. The film's first assistant director, David McGiffert, told Wood's biographer, "It wasn't like they were lovey-dovey on the set or anything like that, but they just had a current about them and electricity." For Thanksgiving weekend of 1981, Wood and Wagner invited Walken to join them as they sailed around Catalina Island, a rocky getaway about 22 miles off the shore of Los Angeles. Wagner loved his yacht's splendour and the family spent as much time on it as they could. In 1979, in a TV interview, Wood talked about how it allowed the family to escape the public eye. "It's easy with the boat," she said with a smile. Davern, I hope I'm saying that right, Davern or Davern, a family friend as well as a Navy vet, was the captain that fateful weekend. He has said in multiple interviews in a book that he co-wrote with Marty Rulli titled Goodbye Natalie, Goodbye Splendor, that after Wood's seemingly flirting. When her husband showed up, he was fuming. The four proceeded to have dinner at Dogs Harbour Reef restaurant, drinking champagne, 2 bottles of wine and cocktails. At one point, Wood or Walken threw a glass at the wall. Employees of the restaurant told Finstad. The restaurant manager saw how drunk the members of the group were becoming and worried they would not be able to reach their yacht safely when they staggered out after just 10 p.m. Using their inflatable dinghy, Valiant, the group did reach Splendor that night, but Wood was dead hours before sunrise. The story of what happened when the 4 of them returned to the yacht has changed several times. According to Finstad's book, Walken early on told the investigators that he and Wagner got into a small beef about a parent being away from young children for an extended time shooting a movie, as Natalie was doing. Apologies were made and the spat died down. However, in his most recent interview, Davin says they resumed drinking wine and that a very heated argument exploding, during which Wagner broke a bottle of wine on a table and shouted at Walken, "Are you trying to fuck my wife?" Davin said Walken let go of his own room, and that was the last I saw. Left to go to his own room, and that was the last I saw of him. Quote. Wood also left for her stateroom, with Wagner following, and Davin heard an ensuing loud quarrel. While Davin did not see them at this point, he said he heard the argument continuing on the deck of the boat before everything went silent. After a time, he decided to check on the situation and found Wagner alone on the deck saying, "Natalie is missing." He asked Davin to start looking for her. When his search was unsuccessful, Davin said he rejoined Wagner, who then told him the dinghy is missing too, with Natalie Wood being deathly afraid of water. So I don't know if it's going to mention this, but another thing that Natalie Wood's mum did, she passed on the fear of water, but she made her do a stunt, and I think she actually fell into the water and broke her arm in this stunt, and that sealed Natalie's fear of water, so she is deathly afraid, and that is like a well-known fact. It's something like that anyway. Davin says he doubted she would have taken the small boat out herself due to this fear of water. He has said in multiple interviews that Wagner, saying he didn't want to attract bad publicity, refused to turn the boat's floodlights off and delayed calling for help. Sheriff's investigators have referred to a key witness statement from Marilyn Wayne, who happened to be in a boat moored 50 feet away at the time. Wayne said that at around 11 p.m. she heard a woman calling out, saying, "Somebody help me please, I'm drowning." The cries went on until about almost 11:30 p.m. when Wayne's boyfriend tried to call a harbour master. No one answered. Also, there might have been a party on another boat moored off the island, so they wondered if it was all a joke. Most troubling, it seems there was a critical gap before anyone learned that Wood was missing. Far from notifying the authorities immediately, according to Finstad's reporting in her book, as well as Davin in his many television and print interviews, Wagner did not make the first call to shore until about 1:30 a.m. So that's 2 hours after the shouts that were stopped being heard. Lana Wood, Natalie's younger sister, has often called for Wagner to say more about what happened that night. She would never have left the boat like that undressed in just a nightgown, said Wood in one interview. In 2013, Wagner released a statement through his attorney, Blair Burke, as reported by E! News. Mr. Wagner has fully cooperated over the last 30 years in the investigation of the accidental drowning of his wife in 1981. Mr. Wagner has been interviewed on multiple occasions by the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department and has answered every single question asked of him by the detectives during those interviews. The Sheriff's Department said in February that a team is still working to see if more witnesses can still remember the night, may help fill the timeline and provide more clues about when exactly Wood went into the water. We're doing our last shot here to see if anyone else will come forward, says Korea actually changed her cause of death 30 years later, which means that Wood's suspicious and gruesome death was never investigated, and she was wrongly and publicly blamed and shamed for the drunken cause of her own death, said Finstad. Wagner, called RJ by those who know him, appeared to have been shattered by the loss of his wife. He wrote in his memoir, "There are only two possibilities. Either she was trying to get away from the argument or she was trying to tie the dinghy, but the bottom line is that nobody knows exactly what happened." Natalie and RJ's daughter, Courtney, was 7 years old when she lost her mother. Courtney has continually expressed her love and support for her father, praising his efforts to protect his children, and told one interviewer, "There are certain people in our lives that continue to trudge up all the speculation and stories every year for no other reason than trying to indulge themselves." Like Wagner, Walken has said very little in a public about Wood's death. In one of his few statements, he suggested that people couldn't handle the strangeness, the randomness of Wood's drowning. Anybody there saw the logistics of the boat the night where we were, that it was raining, and would know exactly what happened, Walken said in an interview with Playboy in 1997. His fullest public response to the tragedy: you hear about things happening to people. They slip in the bathtub, fall down the stairs, they step off a curb in London because they think that cars can't come down the other way and they die. You feel you want to die, making an effort at something you don't want to die in some unnecessary way. For those who knew Wood, it is the ugliness of her death that is so deeply painful, for she was a kind, warm woman who took pride in looking her best. And for the last fateful weekend, she seemed to have been deeply in love with her husband. "I guess we do belong together," she has said in an interview with the Hollywood columnist Shirley Edgar, talking about her compatibility with Robert Wagner. "Yeah, I think we do." Or as adorable Susan Walker said in Miracle on 34th Street, I believe, it's silly, but I believe." So, like I said, please leave your theories in the comments below. I'm really interested to see if you think if this is an accident or not, because I don't have strong feelings either way. I do think it's quite suspicious, but I also think people like to make something out of nothing. So let me know what you think. Recommend your favourite small ASMR